All right, Mike Garza, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I was super excited to get you in. The series has been going really well, and the one thing that I really haven't touched on yet is strength. And so when I was thinking about it, and I talked to you about it before, when I was first got the idea to do it, I was like, I need to get Mike on, because when I think of strength, like, you're one of those first guys that I think of, especially in our neighborhood. The cool thing is that you're local, and
yeah.
you're close by. So I've had a front row seat to kind of watch your journey as a trainer in another gym.
Day one.
Yeah, as a trainer in another gym to now having your own box, like, it's pretty dope. So do us a favor, just to get started, kind of introduce yourself. Tell us kind of where you came from, what your background is, what you're doing now.
Yeah, of course. Again, thank you for having me. My name is Mike Garza. I am the owner of Garza Fit, also co-owner of the Bloc Performance Center, located in Rancho Bernardo, San Diego. Shoot, I got involved in this. I want to say I got involved in the fitness world young. My uncle is a famous bodybuilder. So being around him and family members when I was young, watching him come up, definitely had me around fitness early. But I was an athlete, played football, baseball, basketball in high school, played football through college, went overseas and played football after college. And I knew early, my dad was a coach when I was young. I knew early that I was going to coach football or coach in some kind of fashion, And went to school in Colorado, went to a little Division II school, played football at Colorado Mesa University. When I was done, instantly started coaching, became a student assistant, was coaching, but I also got my bachelor's in exercise science. So our strength coach that semester, my final semester, was teaching a CSCS class. And that's like the big certification for strength and conditioning. And he just said, "Hey, dude, sign up for my class." I'm like, "What is this?" And he's like, "I just need students, sign up." I'm like, "All right, I'm in." So take his class, end up actually having to take the CSCS exam, pass that, which is awesome because, as you probably know, knowing a little bit about the training world, when you get into exercise science and you want to be a strength coach somewhere, that's like the degree or the certification they want you to have. So little did I know, not really focused on that being my purpose, that was like the stepping stone to set me up for my journey. So I was coaching at the school, got another job, a graduate assistant position, moved to St. Louis, was at Lindenwood University, finished graduate school, got an MS in exercise science, also got my MBA, and again was on the journey of coaching football. I was coaching linebackers there, I was helping in the weight room. Finished, ended up signing a contract going overseas, and that was not in my plans at all.
To play football?
No, not in my plan. My plan was strictly when football was over, I was going to coach. So I initially went to go coach and ended up playing football. Played overseas and instantly set up a job for when I got home to get back into coaching. So literally when I got there, the first day I moved to Norway, who my current business partner at the block picked me up from the airport in Norway, and now we own a gym together. I got online, I'm talking to coaches, messaging coaches, and I'm setting up my career for when I come back from Norway, because this was just a stepping stone. And here we are again. They see my degrees. I get a job offer from Pasadena City College, and it's to coach football and be the strength coach. And I was like, well, they kind of go hand in hand. I guess I'll do it. So then I fly back from Norway when the season was over, do an interview. I meet with the athletic director. I meet with the department head, and they say, well, you have a few degrees. We could use you in the department. Do you want to teach also? I don't want to teach. I'm not a teacher. I just want to coach football. But I ended up coaching. I ended up teaching. I was the head strength coach, obviously worked with the football team, ended up working with a few sports, also teaching these classes at a community college. You're working with the general population. So I'm also training, just general people, everyday workers, athletes, former athletes. And I'm on my path of coaching, and that series of coaching came to an end after 3 seasons I was there, and I'm looking for the next job. I'm, sneaking into the USC coach's office, trying, doors are locked. I sneak in behind a janitor. I'm trying to just host a meeting with somebody. I'm dropping off resumes everywhere I can. And while waiting outside of USC for a whole day until I could sneak into the office to meet Clay Helton, I'm looking on Indeed, looking for jobs, looking for people hiring. And I see this space in Anaheim is hiring a performance coach for their NFL offseason. So I end up getting into the office. I end up meeting a few coaches. And a coach there had the same connection with this place I just saw online. And it's like, here I am again, getting pulled into the direction of training. And so I go to Anaheim. It was Stars Performance in Anaheim. And I go to their academy. I meet with them, interview for the spot, and they say, you're too qualified. We're not sure. I'm like, what do you mean I'm too qualified? They're like, this is like an intern spot. I'm like, I'll take it. Like, I need something. So I took it, and I spent that summer just training NFL dudes to go back and, go to their team and play. And that experience was everything for me. It was coaching. I was on the field doing field work, also coaching football. I was in the weight room. I was doing rehab. I was doing recovery. I was learning and also being able to implement everything that I did while I was in school, I was in college, while I was at every stepping stone on my path that I had along the way. And it was after that experience, they ended up keeping me on. I did a few more months with them, and I was like, I need to do this. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And Cody ended up calling me not even a month later and asked, we joked around about opening a gym one day. And he's like, hey, you still interested in opening a gym? And I was like, yep, I am. And he's like, well, let's get you out to San Diego and see what happens. So I come to San Diego, and, you kind of know the beginning of the journey.
Yeah. That's when I came into.
That's when you came into the picture, trying to find a building and a place to rent. And we just started renting space and trying to grow our brand and grow our business. And that's how I kind of, started planting my seeds in the community. But I knew, like, after that experience, I knew what direction I was headed, because I knew I was on the path of doing what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, that's dope. That's a dope story. It's funny how, like you're saying, you're trying so hard to do one thing, but the other thing is pulling you.
Oh, yeah.
It's like your calling of what you're good at. And I mean, obviously, they go hand in hand, but at the same time, it's a much different career path from being in the fitness world than it is to being a coach, right?
Just as demanding, but also it's like you said, it's a lot of the same, a lot different. Like, for example, we're in the new facility. We just hosted a NFL specialist camp. So last week we had 27 NFL long snappers, kickers, and punters in the gym doing a training camp. They're also kicking with Nick Novak down the street from us. We work together. We host this big thing for them. It's exciting. It's fun. Like, these dudes are legit, big time athletes. And right after then, I'm working with two moms, and I got someone that comes in. They just want to get on a walking routine, and you got some mobility and recovery people come in, and a little bit of rehab. So it's like, it's way different than just like the hard-nosed coaching and college weight room status.
Right.
But in the end of the day, you're just helping people.
Right.
Building people, growing people, helping people.
That's the foundation of what it is you do. You help people, whether it's like you said, helping a mom get in shape, or just have a routine, or moving around, or a professional athlete trying to like get to the next level of their career.
Yes.
So a lot of variety.
Oh yeah.
That's cool. One thing I wanted to find out, speaking with you, is I'm trying to get information for us parents in terms of helping our kids get the most out of themselves. Obviously, I understand the skill set side, and I have experience in the gym, not as much as you, but I've worked out for a long time, and I understand that it's a very important part of the process. One of the biggest things that I've always struggled with, and I've talked about this with other people, is when do I have my kids start training? Like, when is too early? When is early enough to get the most out of them? You know what I mean? Like, for my son, he's 14 years old, and I just started him weight training this past year. Like, we just started hitting the weights. We just started doing stuff. I was having him do like body weight stuff and push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups and stuff where he can squats, body weight squats, like stuff so he can build muscle, but without putting like weight on top of it. If you could give advice to a young, or a parent that has a young athlete, like, how would you start them off? Let's say you don't have any kids yet, right?
No kids.
Okay, so you're going to have a little Mike running around or a little Michelle running around at some point.
Yep.
Like, what's your plan? Assuming they want to be in sports and that kind of thing, because maybe they don't. I get this before. People are like, well, whatever my son, I get that. Let's say they want to be involved in sports. Yep. Like, how are you going to start them off, and at what time, and what were the things that you would do to kind of set their fundamentals up?
Push-ups right out of the womb. I'm just kidding. That's like a running joke in my family. He was doing push-ups right out of the womb. Honestly, it's actually a big question because it's a little loaded, and there's a few different sides to this. I get people now that, I've had people call in like, hey, my 6-year-old wants to train. And, cool, I think that's awesome. But where is this coming from? Mom and dad? Is this coming from the 6-year-old?
Right.
Does he really want to train? Does he know anything about training? And I've legit had 6 or 7-year-olds come in that focus more than a college kid. They're just wired a little different. So I don't really believe there's truly an age where it's like this is the age that they have to, because everybody's wired and built a little bit different. But I do know I've had some parents that will see a kid, go score a goal or run a touchdown in a flag football game, or see a little bit of explosiveness and athleticism in their sport, and then think they're the next thing. I got to get them going.
That's every parent.
They're the next thing. So then they, naturally they want to take all the necessary steps to set them up for success, no matter how early it is. But I would say, the right time is the moment where the kid actually enjoys it and they're benefiting and getting something out of it, and it's not really being forced upon them. Because there's not really an early age. If you can come in at 6 or 7 years old, and we can focus on your stability, we can focus on your balance, we can focus on your coordination. Every time you come in, that stuff is improving. You're truly getting something out of it, and somewhere in life that's going to help you, whether it's focus, in the classroom, whether it's focus on the field, whether it's making that extra cut, on the field, scoring a goal. Those are going to help you. But if you're not getting much out of it, then don't force it upon them. Just wait until they're physically and mentally ready to take that on.
Right. And I like that. I like that answer, because it's when I think of training, and a lot of times when people are thinking of training, they think of weights. Right? They think of pushing stuff around, as opposed to, like, for us, it was really important for us growing up when I was raising my kids when they were little. And that's funny because I've recently, with my daughter going to school, like, I was looking over all kinds of old videos and kind of reminiscing and stuff. And the one thing that I noticed in there was we had them doing a lot of movement stuff. So we were on the ladder all the time, working the ladder, doing agility stuff, cone stuff for fun. Yep. We would set it up for our workouts, like our warm-ups, and the kids would just kind of do it. And they kind of got their mobility, their agility, their quickness, their the fast twitch. Like, they built all that stuff when they were little. They were probably 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. Honestly, like, we were that young, because we weren't training them. But thinking back as a parent, like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to train my kids. No, my wife and I were working out. Right. And so we were like, come outside. So the kids, it's all of us outside. The garage is open, the music's on, the ladder's up, and we're doing the stuff, and they're watching us do those things. So I think that what I was asking too is, I like the answer about making sure they're doing stuff, but I like it more so that they're not just lifting weights. Right. They're not just doing push-ups out of the womb. Right. They're doing other stuff. So I think that, how important is it, and what are some fundamental things that parents can do to help just create a well-balanced athlete in terms of movement? Because I'm under the impression, and always have been, that if you can create a good athlete, any sport they play, they're going to be good at.
Yeah. I really do like what you said, how you talked about just, first off, what you guys were doing. You guys were working out. And I think it's super important for parents to realize they are the mirror image of what the kid sees in themselves. If the kids see you walking or running, they don't understand the purpose, but they want to walk or run. Right. They see you go outside and do footwork, they want to hop in and do footwork. If you're jump roping, they want to jump rope. Like, they're going to latch on to everything that you do. So when it comes to improving them, it's just as important to improve yourself and make sure you're moving, you're working out, you're being a good example and role model for them, because they're going to latch on and do all of those things naturally. that you're doing and that you want them to do. So that's super important. But you mentioned as for movements or things that they should be doing, that's going to help them, naturally just running, jumping, balancing, hand-eye coordination. Like the drills that they do could be so simple. You make it fun. Don't make them feel like it's work, and don't think that they have to be pulling a bunch of weight or running around in ankle weights or, grabbing a sled or squatting a bar. All of the little things, strengthening the ankles, strengthening your feet, strengthening your knees naturally through some of these movements are what's going to create that explosiveness. It's going to allow them to be that athlete that you mentioned on the field in every sport.
So you could literally do stuff. Like, it's funny, I was watching these videos, and my son, my little one, Jonah, who's quarterback now, and we train quarterback stuff. I remember I was throwing the ball. We're just throwing the ball, and I'm throwing it at different angles. So he has to catch it this way, that way, this way, that way. And my wife, who we're watching, she's like, you used to do that for like hours. I go, yeah, we would sit on the couch. I'm watching the game, and I'm just throwing the ball around. And he's jumping. He's not paying attention to nothing but the ball. Like, I'm watching the game, and he's locked in, like catching all that stuff. And it's funny because I look now at him, and like, he has amazing hands. Like, he catches everything. Like, he's a quarterback, but he has great hands. And I was putting, 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, all those little things that I was doing back then by accident. I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to get my kid really good at catching. Right? There was no purpose to it whatsoever. It's having fun with my son, while I was doing something else. I think that a lot of times parents need to understand, like, it can be the little things that are done over time, compounded, that just creates that natural, like, reflex or that muscle memory, the stimulation that you just get used to it. Like, when we would play flag, when we'd warm up on the ladder, like, everyone knows how to go through the ladder. We've all done it a million times.
It's like a dance routine.
Exactly. We just know it. And you watch the guys go through it, and you're like, everybody here is on the same page because they all were raised, like, as athletes. The thing I want parents to understand is, like, what are some things they can get that they can just, like, most people don't know. Like, you and I have an athletic background.
Right.
Not everybody has an athletic background. So what about those parents that don't have an athletic background? They're not into working out. They're not into, like, stuff that we are. Like, our kids got it from us because that's who we were. But a lot of parents, that's not who they are.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're either not athletic because they weren't brought up in an athletic family or a background. And they don't work out too much other than, the basic stuff that they think they have to do. And they probably don't love to do it like us.
Yeah.
What can those parents do, like, to get their kids, to have their kids kind of learn to be athletes? Because a lot of them want their kids to be athletes. They just don't know how to help them.
Right. I've always said that, it's funny, like, I was talking to my dad about running backs the other day, and we were talking about what is it in a kid, like, what do you do to make them run and move like a running back, or create those habits of learning how to set up a cut and move. And I said, do you just go play tag? Go play tag. Like, go outside and be a kid. Like, force them to go out and play, shoot hoops, catch a ball, throw a ball, just go be with your friends, get off of your phone, get off of the video game. Don't sit inside, go do things, because, growing up, you think about it, is like, how many times you're out in the street and you come up to a curb and you try to balance and you're walking on a curb.
Yeah.
You don't think that, oh, this is making me more athletic, but in reality, like, you do that enough times, it is improving your balance. It is improving your coordination. You are getting something out of it. So I would say for parents like that is anything you can do to help them to just move, be better with movement, run, jump, go play something, be active. Even if you decide, like, hey, we're going to go throw a ball around, we may not be baseball players, we may not be the best athletes and enjoy it, but we can throw a ball. We can go do some fun stuff. We can go run on the beach, run hills, run through the sand, do those little things. But aside from that is, that's where you also kind of just reach out and get a little help from somebody, whether it's reaching out to a coach or watching a YouTube video or, seeing what simple items I can grab or what I can do that are going to help. I mean, if you have a tennis ball, you can work a million things. Your balance, your coordination, you can run, you can jump, you can catch, you can catch from different angles. Like, there's a lot of things you can do by just having a tennis ball.
Right. And I think that we're in the era now of, like you said, YouTube. We're in the era of, like, whenever it's funny, I put a program together for Jonah, and then I'm writing it all down. And he's like, well, what is that? And so I'll just send him videos. Like, I'll just literally go on YouTube, type in the workout, and 10 of them come up. And, oh, there's the form. Do it like that. And then I'll show him how to do it. But that's how I kind of show him what the exercises are, through YouTube.
Yeah, or even like Instagram now. If you just type something in, everybody's made a reel about it.
Yeah.
There's a video for everything that you can think of.
I think that those are great. It's great to be able to do those things. And for someone like me that understands programming and has gone through that kind of stuff, it's a game changer, because I can literally do anything I want on my own, because I have enough knowledge to know what I'm looking for and how to put it together. The people that don't know how to put it together, that are looking for somebody, they're looking for somebody like you, they're looking for a space to go into to work with. What would you say are the most important fundamentals, characteristics for an athlete to be successful? Like, in terms of, is it explosiveness? Is it change of direction? Is it balance? Is it, like, what are the things? And is it a combination? Obviously, probably a combination of all things. But what, like, if you had 4 things to have a parent focus on, like, these are the 4 things you want to start your athlete doing, like, what would those 4 things be?
I always tell all of my parents, when you're born, the first thing you do is you crawl, and then you learn how to walk. Eventually, you start running around. So the foundation of every athletic movement is running. If you can get somebody to teach you the fundamentals of running and doing it correctly, and that becomes a learned motor skill and a learned habit, that is going to automatically improve everything you do athletically. You're going to be faster, you're going to be quicker, you're going to know how to start, you're going to know how to decelerate, you're going to know how to accelerate. Those are the things that naturally you pretty much do in every sport. And it's the foundation of movement. And I mean, I can't remember what coach it was, but it might have been Herm Edwards or somebody, but they talk about speed kills. It's the truth. I mean, in every sport, that's what a coach,
It's the ultimate advantage.
that's what the recruiter is looking for. Because you can't really, I mean, in reality, like, to some point, strength is important, but I think that's where the game has changed over the years. When we were coming up, the bigger, faster, stronger program, you wanted to squat, 600-700 pounds. You wanted to bench 400 pounds. And that's cool, but how does that translate? Where speed and running technique and running form, those things translate into everything. Whether it's force production, acceleration, top end speed, cutting in and out of a cut, then using that to run with a ball. That translates. I would definitely say learning how to run and enhancing those motor skills are most important.
Yeah, it's true. You said it perfectly. It's the ultimate advantage
Right.
in any sport that you play. That's funny. Like, when you go out, when we were young, you go out on the field and you're doing pickups or whatever. That's the first thing you notice. It's like,
Always.
oh, dude, that dude can run. Like,
And
that dude's
if
fast.
you really think about it, the fastest guy is always also usually the most explosive guy.
Yeah.
He's usually the guy that can jump the highest, he can jump the furthest, he can run the fastest. Like, speed is like the ultimate measurement of like athletic performance.
So in that, I just had JP on, so we talked about speed and the mechanics of all that kind of stuff. How would you train an athlete, or how do you train athletes to utilize the weight room to help with their speed, with the more power behind it and the explosiveness with that?
So we really focus on building the muscles. Well, I always say, if you build the posterior, you build the athlete. So your back, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, your ankles, really focus on strong ankles. A lot of parents that you said we get the parents that don't really understand some of the lingo, but we tell them, if you build a building, you build a strong base and a strong foundation, and then you build up. If you don't have a strong base and you build up, it's gonna crumble. Not that you can prevent everything from happening, but a lot of things that do happen are preventable. You can focus, to prevent certain injuries or certain things from happening. But strengthen the ankles, work on the calves, work on the hamstrings, work on the glutes, work on the back, strengthen your core, and then teach an athlete how to generate force and generate power through movements containing those muscles. Once you learn how to run and jump, and then you get stronger, you they've already know how to do it. So now you teach them with the force that you're getting or the movement that we've created. Now we're going to work on the strength to improve the force that you're producing to get a stronger output.
When you have athletes that are working on these, and I'm saying younger athletes, let's take it away from like 10 or 11 years old. Now they're getting to like 12 years old, and now they're starting to like most likely start lifting weights and adding that into their repertoire of like training. How often does somebody that's at that age when they start lifting weights, like how often is a good amount of training for them? Does it depend on the athlete, the sport that they're playing, or is it something that they can just incorporate into like every athlete should be training this many times, or at least this much so that you're working to get better, bigger, stronger, faster?
When it comes to training, I generally say that rule of thumb is 2 to 3 times a week. My minimum is usually 2. 1 time a week for what when you go to somebody and you're really trying to get the most out of it, 1 out of 7 days is going to be a very slow process. The more positive habits you can create and more time you get to learn a movement and practice it over and over is obviously going to be more beneficial. So I usually tell parents at least 2 to 3 times a week. The hard part is the schedule with athletes now. I've got club baseball. I'm also on a club basketball team, and I've got a travel 7-on-7 team. So I'll make that a priority when I can. And you have to really educate them to understand those are cool. This should be your priority for safety, for athletic development, for mental focus, mental development. Training literally takes everything that you're going to do into that sport in one. So I would definitely say at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Prioritizing. Yeah, you do get a lot of kids that now they're all over the map. Like I'm happy that my kids are focused on the sport that they love. I mean, don't get me wrong, when I came up, we played everything. Right. Whatever the sport was on is what you played. So I played all the sports. And you're good at all of them because you played them. Like my kids, they don't know how to play baseball because they weren't interested in it. I put them in it, but they didn't like it. You know what I mean? Like my boys love football. That's all they wanted to do. My daughter loved soccer. That's all she wanted to do. So I didn't have a problem like putting them in and letting them do that because their schedules allowed me to have more time, like you're talking about, to add in, hey, let's go do some running. Hey, let's do some plyometrics. Right. Hey, let's do a little bit of now weight training as they got older. But I think a lot of these athletes nowadays, there's so many sports going on and they want to get them into everything. They always say the best athletes are the ones that play multiple sports. Right? At what point, though, do you think that like you should bring it down to maybe a couple sports? Because like you just mentioned 3 different things that they're doing. It's like sometimes at some point it has to get to be too much from a training standpoint.
Right. So I do like I was going to say kind of piggybacks off of a question you asked earlier about maybe a parent that doesn't really, doesn't have a strong athletic background. And that's just like another thing like you mentioned is like put them in multiple sports when they're young because you may not understand, the ins and outs of strength training or performance training, athletics, but a lot of those movements that you'll use in their main sport are all going to be learned behavior from a ton of sports. But as for specializing, I'm old school with that. That one's pretty tough. But I would probably say when you get closer to high school or you're around high school, you should kind of know.
Right.
Like what yours are. So like for me, for example, loved playing basketball. Played outside, played basketball every day, no matter what season it was in. And I started wrestling when I was 5, did that all the way through high school, but started wrestling, and I'm playing travel basketball, and I'm playing on all the basketball teams. We didn't have flag football back then, so football was only football season. But I played travel baseball, played on all the baseball teams. And when I got to my 8th grade year, my dad came and said, "This is it for basketball." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "How tall are you?" And at the time, I was 5'5", 5'6", maybe. And he was like, "I'm not very tall. Your family's not very tall. You're not going to be very tall.
Right.
Basketball's not in the question." I'm like, all right, I guess basketball's out. So I just kind of threw it out of the window, kept wrestling, played baseball, football. But I think looking back now, in your question, I knew back then, like, I loved it, but it wasn't it shouldn't have been my focus.
Right.
I knew that football and baseball were like the two that should have had all of my attention. And I think for most people that are truly into a sport, they also know. And like you said, your daughter loved soccer, your son, loves his sport. Most kids that I train, they come in, I'm a baseball player. Well, do you do anything else? I kind of play football, or I may play a basketball team. They already know. They know what they want to do. They know what they're good at, what they love. So I would say definitely getting closer to high school, or by high school, you should know, all of my focus is going to go into this sport or these two sports.
Yeah, I knew what I was in high school, and in high school I played football, I played baseball, I played volleyball. I never ran track because it was during baseball season. And I tried to wrestle one time, bro. You got to be built different to be a wrestler. I think you do. It's a tough sport. It's a real tough sport. Yeah, I wrestled like it. I remember we were like practicing in the gym, and I was with a guy that was way heavier than me. You're just practicing, and he rolled me over, and then as I'm on my back, I panicked. I'm right next to a wall. I pressed him because I was strong. I pressed him, and I tried to roll. The wall was there, and when I rolled back, he landed on me. Dude, all my gums were purple. I was like, I'm done, dude. This ain't for me.
Yeah.
But there was so many different sports that we got to play, but I knew probably close to my junior year. I was phasing out baseball. I loved it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I loved football. Like, I was like, this is my deal. So I agree with that. Like, figuring out.
I would bet to say, like, if you look back now, knowing what you know now, you would say, like, if I would have been able to train more or focus more on these aspects of my training or focus more on this aspect of my game and not done the 3 or 4 other things that you were doing, you probably would have done that if you could go back.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think so, because you look back and I'm like, I wasted a lot of time. And knowing what we know, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20.
Right.
So I look back and you're right. You're like, man, that's why I always tell my kids, I go, you guys, I have a blueprint of experience that all these potholes that I stepped in that you don't have to step in. If you choose, it's your choice. Like, I'm not going to force you to do anything, but if you choose, I'm going to show you how to skip over all these different potholes so we can get to our destination faster. And my job as a dad is to try to make you better than I was. Like, that's my whole goal, is I want you to, at this age, you were better than me. And at the end, I want you to be better than me further. Whatever that ends up being, like, I'm okay with whatever the result is. Like, that's not whatever your goal is what I want to help you with. But I want to help you with the cheat codes,
right,
which is kind of what you're saying. Like, if I had to go back, man, with everything I know now with nutrition and, like, man, it would be a whole different game. Like, it would be a whole different game.
Oh, yeah.
Which is it's true, but hindsight's 20/20. In terms of successful, like, you work with a lot of different athletes, professionals as well. Is there a characteristic that you find in these professional athletes that a lot of them have or share?
Yeah, I would say that it's not always just the professional athlete. It's usually, I would maybe more so say, like, the successful athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Because making it to be, one of the 1% is, it's not, everybody doesn't always get that opportunity,
Right.
but it doesn't mean that you weren't one of the best. I would say, like, it's just focus and understanding, like, your passion and your vision early. All of these athletes generally have a path that they walk down. They have, they live their life a certain way, and they don't take shortcuts. They do the work. They show up, whether it's watching film, in the weight room, taking care of their bodies, the nutritional side. They do everything 110%, and they're all focused on the ultimate outcome, which is either making it or being successful in whatever capacity that is, whether that's getting a scholarship, going to the league, being an All-American, being an All-Pro, signing the multi-million-dollar contract, whatever that is. It's just the focus. I think more of that is mental that they have than less physical. And I see that in just not only athletes, but just a lot of people. because I mean, like you said, we work with a lot of high-profile athletes. We also work with a lot of high-profile people, and the CEOs, you know, the big-time lawyers, the doctors, like surgeons, they have that same mentality as some of those athletes. Maybe they just weren't athletically as gifted, but if you put them, if there was a test that you created that separated like the regular mindset people from
Like high achievers.
right, they would all be in the same category, all of them. And mentally, they're just, I always say they're just wired a little different, but their attention to detail and their focus on their craft, whatever that is different.
I think you're right on that. I think some people are wired different. I also think that if you understood those characteristics like you just talked about, like being focused, hyper-focused on something, dedicated to what it is, having the grit to push through it, I also think that a lot of those things are traits that you could actually build.
Right.
Like the non-person that didn't know about them could build them. Because if you think about it, and earlier you said, like, you know, you're a reflection of what your parents are. And I always used to tell my kids, like, they always ask me, how come you don't know this? How come you don't know that? And I go, well, I'm a product of my environment and a product of what my parents knew at the time. They can't teach me what they don't know.
Right.
So I don't fault them for not being able to teach me the things I don't know. Just like athletically, my dad was a decent baseball player, but he put me around people that I modeled myself after. So I was able to do that. And I think that a lot of these kids, and people, if they want to be successful, and you're a prime example, like you did your thing in sports, but because of what you learned in sports and because of what you learned from your family history and all the hard work and all that kind of stuff, whatever you got yourself into, you were going to be successful.
Right.
And the story I loved is that you were talking about, like, the fact that who sits out unless they're trained to, like, not take no for an answer and find a way around the obstacle. Who sits outside of the USC office trying to sneak in? Nobody does that.
Nobody.
Right? And I know exactly the office you're talking about because I was just there.
Right.
So that right there tells me a lot about the person. And I think that's one of the things that people need to realize about athleticism and being an athlete is, just like you said, there's a small percentage of people that are going to get the opportunity to play at a professional level or to get paid to play the sport. Right, at any level, whether it's like when you went over to Europe, you know, they paid you to play there. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar NFL contract, but you still got paid to do it.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are going to have that opportunity. But at the same time, like the things that you get out of the pursuit of that are worth way more than what that result is going to be, in my opinion.
I agree.
Would you agree?
I agree 100%. I think that in that moment, you're focused on your ultimate outcome, and you don't realize everything that you're gaining from that. But those are traits that you'll develop that you'll never get rid of because you'll take them into every walk of life with you. You know.
Yeah.
I think looking at it now, I would also say competitiveness is also something that they all carry. When it focus and just being competitive people.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't matter what it is. Like we could be like right now, if I was like, who's gonna tie their shoe faster? We were both so competitive, we will dive on the ground and start tying our shoe.
Yeah, might even try to trip you up.
Right, exactly.
So I could get a head start.
And it's the same way. I mean, we'll be in the gym and somebody will roll up like a hip band and throw it, and somebody's like, oh, I can get closer to that cone, and they'll throw it. Now you have like 10 people in the gym throwing hip bands at cones, trying to get closer, and it has nothing to do with anything other than that flip the switch mentally inside where it's game time.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of successful people have that switch that they either were born with or have developed from home life parents themselves, things that they've been through, that it just triggers something in them, and that's the other trait that they carry that makes them successful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the funny thing about competition is I think the next step above that, which I learned over time and a lot of experiences, is that as long as I'm competing for what I want, the outcome is irrelevant. Like, do I want to win? Yes. You always want to win. That's the name of the game. But I never felt worse if I didn't win, if I gave everything that I had and I knew that I was competitive in it. And sometimes you're going to win and sometimes you're going to lose.
Right.
And in our sport, like whenever I would line up against somebody, I was like, and I knew that we're competitive. Like if we're equal, we're equal. Like you're fast, I'm fast. You know, you're good at your position, I'm good at mine. eventually we're going to beat each other.
Right.
The question then becomes to the more minute detail of how many times can I beat you that one time when it matters
Right.
more? Like we could go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But that one play that seals the game, who makes the play?
Right.
And if I make the play on that play, it doesn't mean that I'm better than you. It just means that in that play,
In that moment,
I was better.
Right.
And I think people need to realize, like when it comes to being a competitor, when you get to those levels, you really start to understand that it's all about competition, but you have to understand that the result is it's out of your hands. All you can do is compete the best you can, and what's going to happen is going to happen.
Yep. I agree.
Sometimes they always say, good defense is beaten by perfect offense.
Right.
It just happens. Like you're like, I was there, I broke on it, I had the perfect position, and he just dropped it in a space that I couldn't get to.
I mean, how many shots have you seen Kobe or Jordan shoot, LeBron, whoever, shoot where the defender was in his face, he's close to midcourt, turnaround jumper, and just sinks, and you're like, how did he do that?
Yeah.
It was going to happen regardless.
Regardless, your effort was good.
It was
but
aligned to happen. You played perfect defense. He was just better right in that moment.
Exactly. What are some of the things I always like to talk about, like myths? So there's all these myths out in society about every single topic. When it comes to training, right? You know what I'm talking about. When it comes to training, like what are some things that you hear that are myths that you're just like, God, I wish people would understand. Like in my area of expertise, like that's not a thing. Like that's not a thing. It's not real.
The biggest one is stunting your growth. Well, I guess there's two. Stunting your growth, and the second I would say is creatine is a steroid. Those two have, I don't know where they came from. I guess I could kind of see the lifting too early, why that would become a myth.
Right.
But it's been debunked so many times through studies at Stanford and other huge institutions where there's nothing that you're doing that's going to stunt your growth. Could you hurt yourself? Yes, 100%. Does the 8, 9, 10-year-old kid need to put 135 pounds on his back? No, he doesn't.
Right.
No, she doesn't. But moving, learning how to control your body, learning how to squat properly, learning how to, stabilize, use your core while running, moving, holding weight. Those things are only going to help you. That stuff's not going to stunt your growth.
And I was in that because I didn't know.
Right.
And I always thought like, oh man, I've heard these stories about this person's working out too much. So my son's a small guy, right? He's a little guy. I'm average height. My wife's a little bit less than average height. So our averages for him is not going to be a big guy, right? But the more I started to study that, I started realizing that it's more about the food you put into your body,
Yes.
the sleep that you get at night, and recently the recovery that you put your body through.
Right.
Like those are the only controllables that you have when it comes to like your height.
You are what you are.
That's it. And also being involved in nutrition for so long, 70% of what we do with ourselves is going to determine your height, your size, your strength. 30% is genetics.
Right.
So it's not. You would think that it's not, and that's why it's funny because I have like my younger brother's shorter than me. His son is 6'1". We don't have like super tall people in our family.
Right.
My older brother, he's about maybe a half inch shorter than me. We're almost the same size. His son is 6'3".
Right.
Why are they so freaking big and we're not? Like, you know what I mean? How did that happen? Well, it's probably because they slept a lot, they ate a lot, you know what I mean? All those
Better
different
foods,
things. Yeah, better
nutrition.
foods, all that kind of stuff.
And it's like you said, those are controllables. Like you can control how much you sleep. You can create a positive sleeping pattern for yourself at an early age. You can, as a parent, control the foods that your kid's eating, but also educate them on the reason why they should be eating these foods and how that's going to have an outcome or affect them long-term in their future. This is coming from a kid who knew I had a short family, and I would go outside and hang from a bar
Yeah.
for hours.
My
because
son was doing that the other day.
I thought it was
he
going
was hanging
to
from a bar.
stretch me.
He goes, pull
and
my
make me
feet, pull
taller.
my feet. I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure this is how it works.
It's not working. It's not work. I actually saw speaking of YouTube, I saw a video when I was younger, I think it was around close to high school, where there was like a tribe in Africa and they were hanging from poles, and then it said like all of them were taller. So I started doing it. Didn't work. 5'9". Did not work.
So I tried it for
Didn't work.
months.
And to like what you said, I had a roommate in college. He's 6'1", his dad's 6 foot, his mom's 5'8", his brother's 7'1". It's like somewhere in that family tree, his grandpa was like, their great grandfather was really tall.
Yeah.
Like genetics are everything.
Yeah.
Genetics are going to help you with your strength. They're going to help you with how big you can get. They're going to help you with your height. They're going to help you with your weight. They're going to, like, that plays the ultimate factor. But to what your point, you know, sleep, nutrition, those things are game changers.
Right. And another thing you touched on, which I think is really important, is mentality. Like, I was taught at a young age in high school. I had a coach, and he used to always say this one phrase, and it used to. And at first, I didn't understand it because I was in high school. You know, you're in one ear, out the other. Yeah. But he used to say it all the time, and as I got older, it stuck with me. And this was, God, high school for me was 37 years ago. 37 years ago was high school. I guess it's a long time, bro. And was it 37? 18? No, 32 years ago. I was like, that sounded like a lot.
Coming up on 19.
Yeah, it creeps up on you. But he used to say this thing, and I never really understood it until I got older. And when I got older, it became like a mantra for me. He used to say that in the sport of football, mental is to physical as 4 is to 1. So he would say that basically the way I interpreted it later on in life was, it's more important what's going on between these ears than the rest of my body.
Right.
Like, if I know where if I wasn't the fastest guy, but I knew how to line up and where to be and how to use the field, I could compete with somebody that was faster than me. If I knew if I studied film, and maybe I wasn't the quickest or whatever, but if I studied film and I knew where a play was going to be, I could put myself in a position to make a play. Yeah. So it was more so, it became a mantra for me, more about not just for sports, but in life. Like, as long as I would condition my mind to be as smart as I could be in whatever subject that I was dealing with, I always had an opportunity to compete in whatever I was competing in. So how important is mentality when you have people in the gym that are working out? Like, how important is that mentality other than just coming in and just being able to throw around, you know, a bunch of weight?
Super important. I think, like, that goes back. Like, I know I keep putting this kind of just back into life, but I mean, like you said that, and instantly I heard my dad in the back of my ear, what you put into it is what you get out of it. And it's like, he used to say all these sayings, and they used to just irritate me, but they always come back. And I think that it's true. I mean, the mentality you show up with in life, in the gym, in the weight room, on the field, that positive, you know, focused mentality is going to set you up to get the most out of that workout. You're going to be focused. You're going to be relaxed. You're going to feel like you're getting something out of it. You're going to be mentally ready to go. We've all been in that phase where, like, you wake up, you didn't get the best sleep. You woke up not hungry. Then you show up to the gym, and all of a sudden my ankles feel stiff and my knees feel stiff, and mentally I don't want to be here. And you start thinking of all the negatives in that moment, which they're negative, but you're not like, oh, I'm being negative. It's like, my body hurts, negative. You know, my feet hurt, it's negative. My knees hurt today. Maybe I shouldn't do legs. You know, my back hurts. What if I hurt my back today? You know, my shoulder hurts. I probably shouldn't do this today. I shouldn't do that today. But you're not thinking like, well, I ate ice cream last night. I didn't eat a good dinner. I didn't eat breakfast yesterday. Stayed up all night, and I'm dehydrated. You know, I set myself up for this because I wasn't mentally focused yesterday to prepare myself for tomorrow, which is today. Mm-hmm. And when you show up with that mentality that you're going to just be positive and get the most out of everything, that literally carries into everything that you do. Like your mindset is everything, plays a huge role in just life.
And I love how you brought up your dad. So it's funny, the people that we have in our lives, be it your father, be it your coach, be it a grandfather, you know, they say certain things, and the reason why they're able to say these things is because they're coming from a place of experience. Like, they've been through that. They're saying it because they know it to be true. They don't think it's true. Right. They know it's true. And so when we hear it as young people, you know, we don't really take it too serious, because at that age you kind of know everything, right? You know, right. I know everything. I already know Mom. Yeah. You know, I already know Dad. You know. I get that from my kids at this point. Like, they know everything. But the older they get, hopefully they'll start getting some of those lessons. How important was your father or your mother growing up in terms of raising you to have those kind of standards that brought you through, you know, the journey that you've gone through to where you are now as a successful business owner, running your own business, knowing what your purpose is, what you want to do. Like, what are some things that they did that really helped shape you that you think are worth sharing?
Shoot, it was everything. It's super important. I literally would not be here where I am today without it. And as you're saying that, I look back and I'm just thinking of like the conversations and the scoldings and, you know, the hard moments. My dad was a coach, so he coached me, you know, in my younger years. And we butt heads so much, we got to the point where he says, I'm not coaching you anymore. You can go play for somebody else and see how you like it. And I did, and I never won again. I started losing everything. We used to win championships and everything, and all of a sudden I couldn't win. But to answer your question, it was everything. I look back at those moments, and at the time I'm thinking like, he's just yelling at me. He's never satisfied. He's not happy. I can't ever be good enough. Nothing's right. I do everything wrong. And then I look back at it and I'm like, well, he was setting me up to be able to mentally handle some of these things. He was setting me up to be able to handle adversity. He was setting me up to, you know, show up prepared, you know, to get something out of my workout, to have the right mentality, to have the right focus. He was literally my dad. Obviously, I spent a lot of time with him, but he was so hard on me, and I used to think like, why is he so hard? He wasn't hard on me because he was being a jerk. He was hard on me because he was setting me up for everything I was going to encounter in between the lines and in life. And knowing now, I look back and I say some things happen, and I'm like, geez, he was right. He was definitely right. But I've also found myself, like, it hasn't been an easy road. You know, showed up to San Diego, supposed to open a gym, and find out that, you know, the other business partner was trying to take us for like $180,000. And so I had just moved everything, come down, and it's like, all right, well, I have nothing now. I don't have a gym to work out in, which is how I showed up at Optimum, just looking for a home.
Right.
But it's like, I've found myself in life ever since, you know, I got to high school, or even after high school. I think it came from my dad, but it's like, nothing is ever going to be too hard.
Right.
Mentally, I can endure everything. Mentally, I can overcome everything. Pressure is what it is. It's just pressure, but I'm going to find my way out. And I think those life lessons that he taught me young, and the little sayings and how hard he was on me, it set me up to be successful and feel like I can literally take on the world.
Yeah, it's preparation.
Right.
He was preparing you for things. That's the funny thing about being a father, is that you realize, like, once you become a father, the craziest thing, I always tell people, the craziest thing is that when I have a friend that's going to be a new parent, I always tell him, I go, I want you to be focused on one moment. And I want you to be focused on it for a reason. Because I remember it was the first parenting father feeling that I had, is when you and your wife leave the hospital and they put you in that car and they close the door, it's just you three. That's it. At that moment, I realized, like, there's nobody here to help me with anything. Like, it's just me, her, and we're responsible for him. And it was the craziest moment. But at that moment, you start to realize that my purpose has changed from just taking care of my wife. Initially, it's just taking care of yourself. Then it's taking care of you and your wife. And now it's like, I'm responsible for this human being and, like, raising this person up to be everything that they should and could be, and better than what I was. As a man, that's probably what your father felt, was like, you're his project. He's got to prepare you, but he wants to see you succeed. And they say that the father is the only person that ever wants you to do and be better than them.
Right.
You know, so you have that, which is, it's dope to hear. Whenever I see successful people, it's usually one of two things. And it's either the polar opposite, is they had that father figure or that mother figure, the parent, that really set them up for success, or they didn't have it at all. And they had to find it in something else. They found it from someone else, but not in the parent figure.
Right.
So that's why I like to ask successful people how their parents were interacted, right, because my audience are parents. And they need to realize that we need to realize that everything we do is going to have a consequence on our child and how they see the world.
You know, I said, like, I told you, like, I mentioned, like, everything to myself. I'm like, nothing is ever good enough, But then I look back on it, and it was like one of the things he used to tell me was that he was never going to parade around and have me gloat or worship me over the things that I should be doing right anyways.
Right.
And it's like I look back at like work now or something that I'm doing, I'm like, this is what I signed up for.
Right.
Like, I can't complain about working long hours. I can't complain about issues that come up, you know. It's what I signed up for. And when I complete it, I've just completed it because I'm supposed to be doing this anyways.
Right.
You know, and I would say, like, he was hard on me in a way of, like, you do the things you're supposed to be doing, you do them the right way, and you do them with a purpose. And that's how you attack anything and everything in life, not just sports, because that is what you'll do to get the most out of everything. And it's like, I mean, he's right.
Yeah. It's crazy how that works out.
Yeah.
How old is your dad?
He is 56.
56.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got 2 brothers and 3 sisters.
Oh, wow.
3 brothers and 2 sisters.
So you got a big family.
Big family, blended family. 2 of my brothers are in college playing ball now.
Okay.
At 2 institutions. One's at Eastern Illinois playing football. The other one's at Southern Utah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's funny. Like, I've known you for all these years, and I didn't know anything about, like, that, your family aspects. But I guess when you're dealing with certain people in professional life, you kind of, like, just stay in that lane.
In that lane,
You
yeah.
don't usually get out. And then everyone's so busy, you know, you kind of run it. But that's dope, man. I mean, yeah, I think it's so important to have, you know, good role models.
Oh, yeah.
People that actually can teach you kind of what's going to happen ahead of time. And then that way you can be prepared. Because, I mean, it's obviously it worked.
Yeah, I definitely think, like you said, that the parent thing, you do have a parent audience, is most important. Because you mentioned at the beginning, you were like, for the parents that don't have that athletic background, I'm not a parent, but I would probably say every parent has been through some type of struggle mentally or something that they've had to overcome. And if you look at that moment and how you felt, how you overcame, how you handled it, you would be able to help your kid in some capacity mentally, because the mental game is everything.
Right.
And again, like I keep saying it, it's not just on the court in between the white lines. It's the things that, you know, how you handle yourself in the classroom. It's how you handle yourself when you're out in the community. It's how you handle yourself in the weight room, how you show up to everything that you do, you know, how you wake up, how you show up, and then what you do when you get there. I would say every parent has been through an experience where they can show something and educate their child positively in a way that they should show up, how they should have a purpose with what they do, how they should attack their days, which they probably have had that even through work. You know, a parent that's working knows how they're supposed to show up, and they can use that to teach a kid, this is your work, this is how you're supposed to show up, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you're supposed to show up to live. You know, when you're having a bad day, you still have to do this, you have to overcome this mentally. I think those experiences allow them to help their child mentally, which is going to be the biggest part of all of this.
Right. And one thing I would say too is how important is it when you have, like, I really want to bring the whole parent thing around, is when you have a parent that comes in and they bring their kid into you, how important is it, their relationship, where they allow their child to come in and just be coached? Do you get a lot of parents that come in with all of these like expectations, like I want this, as opposed to just saying, hey, Mike, this is my kid. Like they want to get better at this. Like, what should I do? Do you get those parents that are like, they know what they want you to do, even though they don't really know?
We definitely get both. I mean, I've had some parents show up with a notebook of things that these are the tasks I want you to focus on for the day. Like, why are you here?
Right, exactly. You could do that at the park.
But I do believe that, I mean, in a general sense, you could see your kid running and be like, they don't run correctly. You could see they're not very explosive. They need to get faster, or they need to get stronger. They don't control their body well. You could see that stuff. Doesn't mean that you know, I can tell you, like, yeah, my car's broken, that I can't get in there and fix it, you
Right.
know? So I would say it's super important for parents to be able to visualize and see what's wrong or see that their kid needs help, and then take them to the specialist and allow the specialist to do what's needed. You can ask them for guidance. This is what I've seen. This is what a coach said they need to focus on. These are some areas that I've noticed or I believe they need to get better on. But once you go to a professional of some sense, let them take the reins,
Right.
and help the kid. Because not only is that going to create separation from the parent and the child is not going to feel like you're still coaching them, and
Right.
everything that comes from the coach isn't coming from the parent.
Right.
Because that becomes a hard space for a parent and a child when the child feels, like I mentioned with my dad, is always harping on me. You know, if a parent starts telling the coach, you're doing this, the child is like, I'm only here because my parent keeps yelling at me because they think I need this, this, and this. And then they resent you for it.
Right.
And then they don't show up mentally. And they don't show up focused. They may not love it. You know?
Yeah, and that's I love that. That's key. That's a big thing for me. Is there comes a point for my kids, my boys, because I coach them. So I've coached just like your dad. I coached them since they were little. We win all the time because I understand the game and I know what their strengths are and what the kids' strengths are. But there comes a point where I have to pull myself out, and so I have one more year with my son until he hits high school, and then after that, like I release him to the high school, and then I'm just more on the background, like observing, watching, like, hey, you know, let's look at the film. What'd you do here? What could you have done? Like, not critiquing, just, hey, let's take a look at it and see, you know, what we could have done. Was that the best choice? Was there a different choice? Just to kind of get their minds working. But it's true. You have to, when I take a kid, like if I take my son to you, like I'm trusting that you know what you're doing. I've done my research already. Right. I know who you are and what you're about. And now I'm going to let you do the work. And sometimes as parents, like, you know, you want to be involved and we think we know more, and even myself, someone that has a big background in sports and athletics and training and stuff, I know I do. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know.
Well, I think part of that comes from, like, as a parent, part of your job is to know what's best for your kid and how to set them up for success. And sometimes it may be tough to let go of that portion of that for a second and say, like, I know this is what's best, but I'm going to take a back seat and let somebody else do it.
Right, I agree. Last couple things I want to know. I want you to give a piece of advice to parents and a piece of advice to the children. Like, in terms of trying to be the best athletes that they can be, what advice would you give to the kids? And in terms of helping their kids be the best athletes they could be, what advice as a trainer would you give to the parents?
I think for parents to help their kids be the best athlete that they can be, I think being a good role model, being a positive influence, not always just lecturing them on their mistakes or praising them on the good, but finding a common ground to share a little bit of both, learn how to, you know, in some of those moments, if you're going to coach, speak to them like a coach, don't speak to them from the perspective of a parent. Because if you can split the difference between coach and parent, there's a level of not just respect, but a level of comprehension that comes from the child, where it's, you know, you're an authority figure and you're my parent. You're helping me get better in something that I love. You're not just scolding me, yelling at me because I feel like I'm about to get grounded.
Right.
You know, so if you can separate those two mentalities and find a common ground in helping the child, and then just doing whatever you can to know what they like, what they love, not forcing your past life on them, your former mistakes on them. You know, you talked about the potholes earlier, how you would help your kids to stay out of those if they wanted to listen. But it wouldn't do you any good if you just grabbed their hand and dragged them along and said, right, this is where we're going because I did this before. Truly help them, you know, find a way to communicate so that they understand, be that good role model, and then when they're ready, find the help that they need that's going to help further them as an athlete so that you can continue to be the best parent you can be while also still being able to, at the right times, coach and find learning moments, you know, about the sport and life and how those two come together.
It's good stuff.
For the kid, I would say to be the best that you can be is you have to do the little things. You have to be able to focus on not just the stuff that you want to do. You have to learn to love the process of the journey of all of it. You have to stretch. You have to sleep. You have to take care of your nutrition. You got to show up. You know, you have to show up with a purpose. You have to have a vision and visualize what you want for yourself in the future, or what you want out of whatever it is that you're doing. And I think once they start to focus on that stuff, they'll be successful.
It's good stuff, man. I appreciate your time, brother. I appreciate you.